All right. What's up, Sarah? Sarah
Dude, what's up, bro?
Chan. Tell us about yourself. Today we're gonna do a girl chat, right?
Yeah. Well, for anybody that's, I guess, new to the podcast, hello, my name is Sarah Chan. I'm the founder and CEO of SRQ Copywriting. I help my clients resonate with their audiences through impactful copy that actually increases their sales. Um, I met Cristi while living in Miami as well, so it's kind of what I've got to give on that one.
How you feeling today?
It's another day, isn't it? It's another day. Business is crazy, man. I mean, I'm so busy. I'm working on multiple different aspects to grow my business, I think. And then on top of that, too, uh, announcing that I'm going to be launching a book,
Oh yeah.
which is super dope. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be a very impactful way to, I think, help the younger generation as far as like considering them being the underdogs and how to, lift themselves up coming from the background that I've had as a child, and then how to build a world out of hardship, how to build a life out of hardship.
I think that's an excellent thing to be doing, and
Thank you.
we both constantly talk about moving forward and how we can also enlighten the youth with what we
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I mean, I think something that we all should strive is to essentially try to build things that last for the next generation. I think if we're not passing information down to the younger generation to help them, I mean, one, I think it's inherently very selfish, and then two, I think that you know, I hate the idea of gatekeeping, man. I really do. I think that there's a lot of business owners out there that try to gatekeep all the information, and I think that if you're not sharing what you've done successfully and to try to uplift people, I think that you're just a very selfish person. We all start somewhere, right? So
100%. I see it as, especially coming from my background in the music industry, for example. I was a teacher at the time that I actually stepped into the public music industry. And so basically, it was like an exposure to me of like what competition people create for themselves based off having certain knowledge or not. But at the end of the day, they learn that knowledge some way or another.
I think
It's
information should and very high quality information should be paid for, right? So when we started businesses, we had to pay to get the information that basically launched us into the level in which we operate at now. I think fundamentally, entrepreneurship in general is something that you're born with. But information, how you build a business, that is either distributed by people believing in you and or you're paying for it. So I think that everybody, if you're going to get into business, then you should pay people for what they're worth. Um, and I think that's what leads us into the major overall arching, you know, idea of today's discussion is that, having integrity is like the number one thing people just don't talk about in business. And after my first year in business, if I had to guess, I've probably talked to over 300 people. I would say on average 85% of business owners, they lack integrity in their businesses in the sense that they treat their businesses as a hobby, not a business, not something that they're going to throw in all their energy into. And I think that's the problem with a lot of startups. And I think that's a part of the reason why a lot of startups fail is because they treat businesses like just another side thing to do when they could be taking it so seriously. I think a lot of great ideas can be made into multi-million dollar businesses. But the problem is that the founder doesn't take it seriously. And when you take it seriously, that comes with a high level of integrity.
Well, yeah, for the idea of integrity comes up to my mind, and doesn't it at first I didn't understand the word, to be honest, like when I chose to simplify it and realize what does integrity mean. But at the end of the day, I just needed a certain way of wording to understand it and match with it, because I know what it is. I personally use other words to represent the use of integrity, meaning do what's right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like the fundamental principle of business, right? For me, I
Well, that's good business.
I think if you're doing it maliciously, karma will come back around and will come and get you one way or another. And that's just simply it's just simple.
There's, I would like to reword that. It would definitely, when you're doing the right thing, you have you build your own evidence to justify why you chose to do this, right?
Yeah,
But
no, 1,000%.
if you're doing it the wrong way, you're gonna have to face consequences.
Oof. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about
And
business
the
in general is
consequences
that
are what happens.
every single right or wrong move has positive and or negative consequences with those actions that
Mhm.
you take.
Every action. I used to teach that in
Yeah.
kindergarten. When I was a
Good.
teacher,
Start them
I
young.
used to teach an action has a good and a bad consequence.
Good.
How do you want to
It's the right way to teach kids.
how do you want to be? Do you want to be facing bad consequences all the time? No. So how do you eliminate facing so many bad consequences? You figure out a way to do things the right way. I mean, a trial and error will help you understand what works and what doesn't, and what's good and what's bad.
I think, too, just to cherry pick off of that, I think integrity has a lot to do with your essence as a human being, right? From a very young age, we are taught right and wrong. And somehow along the way, adults grow up misaligning with that. They don't understand what is the right thing anymore. I mean, you and I are very close. We're very good friends, so we can openly discuss this topic, right? Is that when we've had people that are very close to us, they have not done the right thing. They think they can just get away with it, and that's
Yeah,
like at a personal level.
that's everywhere. I mean, you're always gonna know things are happening, especially in a fast world.
Yeah,
Like for me, doing the right thing might take longer, but I'm still gonna want to take that path, knowing that it's the right path. Taking step by step and analyzing, making decisions, getting my research done, taking the time to understand what I am putting energy into. And that happens a lot in the moment of, sorry, this, I'm going to reword this. So when you analyze, you take your time, you really know what you're aligning with, what you're spending your energy on, you're going to make it intentional, right? So then if you're not, typically it's because you're doing something out of impulse.
yeah, man, that I
And
would 1,000%
a
agree with.
lot of bad decisions happen out of impulse. I'm not saying all,
I
but
think to a degree, impulsivity is good because it makes you take quick action. I think that's what a lot of people lack nowadays, and they think that And I just speak from now as someone who doesn't live in Miami. I feel like a lot of people, they have this impulsivity that live in your city because they see what's around them. They think that they can just go out there and go scam people, in which Miami is literally known for people scamming them. But the impulsivity portion that comes into that is that if you, they're basically saying, if you don't take action now, you're going to be left behind. In a sense, they're right, though. That impulsivity is actually, I think, what helps you become successful. Impulsivity is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's bad when you misuse that impulsivity. That's how I look at that.
I agree with it. My my thoughts go into detail with what you said about keeping up with the city, especially Miami. I agree. I always tell people Miami's crazy. And
Oof,
if you don't I'm born and raised here. If you don't take control of yourself in the city
the
will
city will
control
control
you.
you. Yeah,
So what I always tell people, right?
that I
And
agree with.
I used to say this just in the aspect of me on my leisure, like going out. Back then I used to be like, oh yeah, there's so much going on that if I don't put myself in a routine of going to the gym during the week, then you're gonna see me floating with the city in the sense of going out to any time, any event, any. There's so much going on. There's so many different things you could do besides doing what you choose to do,
No,
right? But
that I
if you take the time planning yourself, what do I want? And I
yeah,
was just talking about this in my therapy session. My homework is to list my wants and needs now in my life, right now. But these are little things that allow us to structure ourselves, plan, organize, to be prepared so that when these decisions come quick, we're prepared to answer them
yeah,
in impulsivity. But
yeah.
just because the city's moving fast, what you said earlier, like, people think they're going to be left behind. That's not true. There's different levels. If you're not ready for this right now, then you need to do what you are ready for and keep moving forward. And you're still going to be moving forward. And then when that opportunity comes again, what can you do at that point? Now you can be ready for it and take it. Just because you didn't take it now doesn't mean you're getting left behind. It's just not your time. But that doesn't mean that whatever you're in right now, if you're working, let's say you're trying to build from the ground up, right? And you try to do something to to line up with things that are not at your level, just because you see there's an opportunity to do that, and you might have to do something that doesn't go into the work ethic that you're supposed to be building foundational wise. You want to skip some steps, it's not going to work. You need to build a strong foundation. So if you still need, like, I guess an example, an analogy for this that I'm trying to explain is that, at least as a DJ, right, in the DJ community, I always have the conversations with other DJs in the community when I meet them. They want more gigs, they want more work, right?
Right.
But they ask me, or about pay, like they're trying to basically survive off of it. What do I tell them? My first recommendation is you're not gonna be is you need a part-time job minimum besides DJing. Minimum. If you can make it happen, go great. That's awesome. But
Yeah,
ideally you need something stable so that then whatever you get from the actual DJing can add up to your stability.
that I
Right?
agree with. I mean, just a
And
cherry pick off what you just.
that's just taking a slower route than just only focusing on the DJing in your eyes, but in my eyes, but you're still gonna be grabbing things without the stress of surviving.
1,000%.
And that makes a
a
difference
thousand
whether
percent with
someone.
the aspect in which you are asking for stability, that I totally agree with. However, in my situation, it came to a point where I couldn't find a job, dude. Like, no one would respond. And I had, and I don't know if it's God or it's the universe that designed it like this, but that allowed me to go so all in on my business. And now where I'm at the level where I can legitimately say I will do over 100 grand this year alone, that's crazy. But I needed that to happen because I needed to be in survival mode. And that's where I optimally function at.
Did you feel like you got left behind?
I felt for a couple of years, I once I started my business, I realized the amount of time I spent working for others. And that's how I felt like I was left behind. But also at the same time, emotionally be cognizant of the fact that I also understand too, I wasn't emotionally as mature as I am now.
I was just gonna say what that experience in the past before you started your business, it still taught you skills.
1,000%. I think that when people start businesses, you have to be at a level where you know yourself so foundationally that if anybody tries to come at your character, they can't because of the fact that you know yourself so well. Like the principles in which you stand on, people are going to sense that. If you have no integrity, no boundaries, and you're just going to be someone that they can walk over, they'll sniff that right out of you.
Yeah, that's where you waste time.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
for anybody who's even considering starting a business, the first thing I would say is like know yourself to a T. So when somebody does come for you in your character, then you can say, "Well, that's not true," because these are the principles in which I stand upon.
Yeah, and that's the goal is to keep your vision in line and steady.
Yeah.
When you start breaking or being lenient, I was gonna say like breaking rules or being lenient.
No,
It
lenient's the
starts.
proper word for that.
It starts when you start becoming lenient. It just becomes a habit, and at the end of the day, the word lenient comes from within because you wouldn't have to be lenient on something that you create.
Yeah. I
Like you create it, you know it's right. It's the way you want it. Like for you to be lenient, that's for you adjusting to someone else's standards. Unless it's like Mother Nature.
no, 1,000% that I agree with. I mean, like some people, they they have this idea of what integrity really is. For me, I don't think there's any other place in the entire United States, unlike the Northeast, to teach you what integrity is. Because when you look at a city like Miami, integrity lacks. When you look at a city like New York City, that's a completely different realm. While the New York City is known for having mafia ties, even within the mafia, they had integrity. Okay, so what does integrity mean for me personally? I think integrity means always trying to put your best foot forward, trying to be aligned with your most authentic self in order to project that, and always trying to do the right thing as much as you possibly can. And sometimes, yes, you're gonna fall down. Sometimes that's literally called life. But if you're 90% of the time being integritous, I don't think you're doing so bad. Because there are people that will bulldoze you as much as they possibly can just to knock you out of the way to get to the top.
Most definitely. Uh, for me, I I've always been a person that thinks about the outside before I think about myself. So I genuinely just see a problem and I want to help it, right? But at the end of the day, that characteristic can only help to an extent if you're not helping yourself first.
I had to learn that the hard way last year, even in this year. I continuously kept putting people above myself. What does everybody else need? And I think when I got into therapy last year, my therapist asked me the same question. Do you even know what it, and she literally asked me, he's like, do you even know what it's like to put yourself first and what you need and what you want above other people? And I sat there and I cried because I didn't. And I was like, and I guess it was like a culture shock at like 24 years old. And you're like, you're sitting there, you're supposed to know what it is that you need and you want foundationally. But the fact that I couldn't answer that, I just saw how much that I have been putting people above me for a very long time. And that only hurt me in the process of building a business. But like coming out of that now, I'm like, no, I'm going to say no sometimes to people. If I can't talk, I can't talk. I'm busy. Put what you need above everybody else. Because if they don't understand, they ain't your people. I'm sorry.
It
People that
might
are with you, they will understand why you say no.
it might take time also for people to understand, but that just goes in their own inner potential of
1,000%. And that they're on independently on their own journeys too. They will learn the power in saying no to people.
right. But I'm talking about like how they say sometimes you have to be delusional to stand out, right? So what I'm
Ooh,
gonna say about this is basically I've been seen as delusional many times in my life, many times, but it's still I have not changed what I represent and what my business is creating. It's just that as I make it a reality, people start understanding. So just because they don't understand at the beginning doesn't mean it was never a reality to you. So, yes, with patience, our thoughts can be understood, but that doesn't mean you have to feel rejected by those that don't understand. You just keep consistency, and the ones that are meant to understand will understand. And with integrity, the ones that are meant to be there will be there. And it's something that definitely, as business owners, we face that, you know, especially in the early stages. I just I just launched at the beginning of the month a visual summary of my children's book, Selva the Flamingo, DJ of the City. And I've had people think I'm crazy, I'm delusional, like having a whole brand on the flamingo and what colors I choose and what I spend my time creating. But people confuse the word creative with it not relating to business. And at the end of the day, I'm creating the business so that then the product could be sold.
I heard this somewhere recently along the lines like it takes such delusion in order to think it's possible. Business owners, we have to be delusional because if you're not, why are you doing this for?
What's the purpose?
What's the purpose behind it?
It's
because you're
probably already
sitting
done.
there and you're wasting time.
It's probably already happening and done if they're not delusional.
I think this has like been done throughout the history of time, like since the inception of the human civilization. I think that a lot of people they lack strategy and focus on what it is exactly that they want, because most people can't pinpoint exactly what it is that they want. And I think that's why 90% now, that's what they say, 90% of startups fail. Not just in the first 3 years, but in the first year, because they don't know the foundation in which they operate upon.
You need that
But
for long
you
term.
have to incite that delusion into yourself. There has to be, and I talked to my mom about this recently. You have to have some sort of delusion to get you out of bed every single morning. Whether it's someone you have to follow up with, someone you have to send an email to, you've got to do stuff for clients, you got to do this, you got to do that. There's multiple aspects in running a business, but you have to have delusion in order to get you to where you want to be.
I think delusion is what keeps me fueled because
I would agree with that one.
I literally get all my tasks done and I have so many projects, but the only reason I create these projects is because I hit the delusional side. I literally make it, create it, and see if it works.
I mean, I think for me, like when I'm creating projects, if projects simply, venturing out into now
Yeah,
writing a
that's stuff
book
you don't
and
do.
venturing out into client acquisition, going to networking events, if it's me now venturing into public speaking, like
Just do
there's
different things.
so much on my plate that I'm like, I think I can handle all this.
Why not? You're not gonna do all of them at once, but
Oh no, there are going to be days in which you prioritize
yeah,
other
exactly.
things, of course, because
Now
you're one human being.
that's what I'm benefiting on. If I don't want to touch my music, I get to go touch a
Right.
children's book. If I don't want to touch the children's book, I get to go play sports. If I want to go do this, if I'm done with this, I get to go public speak.
I think where a lot of business owners they get this wrong is like we get so caught up with everything we've got going on that we and then this is the bad part of delusion too. We don't know how to put our jobs down. We walk around, and if we get an email from, like, in your instance, if you get an email from one of your venues, guess what? What's your first instinct? You got to respond. I'm the same way. Clients are emailing me at 10 o'clock at night now, and I still respond.
Yeah, but
It
you could
never
wait.
feels like you're done working. There's always something else to achieve.
You just have to give yourself boundaries and healthy boundaries. If you get an email, doesn't mean you have to respond in that second. You should just be like, I'm happy that I just got this email. I have something to start my day tomorrow. They can wait.
How you know we both have Macs?
But no, it happens. I mean, I to be honest, that started happening with me. That type of boundary started happening with me as my social network grew a lot, and all the messages that I get on my phone, I'm just like that though. I like to talk to people. But now there's a priority on who I talk to first because certain things have timelines and certain things have to do with the present mode and some of them don't. Like I have my friends that I can connect with from childhood, right? And we understand each other. When we are catching up and we don't respond to each other, we pick up wherever we left off. But they know I'm like dealing with 100 other people in these 2 weeks. It's just a matter of the priority. Like if you call me and then I'm here working on a deal or something, we just find time to talk after this is due, you know? If this is not due, then I can say, oh, I was just working on this and talk to you. Take a break. But
I
it's just a
think the
matter of
problem with me,
structuring.
and this is just a very personal issue, I don't know how to stop. And my brother
And that's fine.
and my mom have said this to me. They're like, "Are you going to repeat the same mistakes that your dad made and basically run yourself into the ground?" I was like, "If I can retire early and not have to work past 45, 50 years old, I guess this is the cost of it." But also at the end of the day, they have a significant point where you've got to make time for yourself. And that I've always been terrible at.
There's a analogy that I was told when I was like 19, 20, 21, 20 or 21. Basically, I was overwhelmed with a lot of things going on in my life, and I was told about this pie chart concept. The chart is a pie. It's a circle, right? Sure. You have a circle, and
Okay.
you have to equally distribute. I mean, my I'm just trying my best, but ideally, ideally these would be all equal slices, right? Like a
Yeah.
pizza pie. Each slice each slice represents a portion of your life. So you want balance. So you can do one thing that's important to you, family. One thing that's important to you, self care. Another thing is uh, your business. Another thing is passion projects. Another thing is hobbies. Another thing is friends. But you can make them whatever you want. If something is too much, like let's say your business is taking up this much, right? That means you're slacking on the other ones.
Yeah,
Or
dude.
if this is all being taken up by a person, you're slacking on everything else. If it's being taken up by one thing, nothing should be one thing taking over too much. Not one thing. You can go into other ways and make things fit with each other, but you should not have one thing ever overpouring in your life. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be dependent on it. And if something bad happens, then you're going to be super shocked. So you always want to be
I
grounded.
can agree with you there.
So you always want to be grounded. And I mean, we can talk about this in the next chat, but our idea is like when you're grounded, you're healthy. When you're focused, you know what you're doing. Each step is like chess. You need to be strong, healthy, balanced in order to have consistent, steady growth in the long term.
It's what my life coach said to me. And I'm
You
still
think
working
long
on
term.
finding, yeah, I'm still working on, and I think this ties in with integrity too. You have to have the level of integrity and discernment to understand balance in your life that I don't have yet.
And it's a
Because I've
work in
watched,
progress.
oh, 1,000%.
We
It is
always have
progress.
we always learn and we always find better ways and adaptations to our day to day.
I think too, like even with a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have the level of discernment to understand the balance word, right? And like they always laugh because it's like entrepreneurs, we don't understand work life balance because if it's not on this, it's on a computer, right? If it's not on a computer, it's an iPad, right? And guess what? Where are we taking said things? We're taking them everywhere we go. So it's always work in front of our faces.
Well, it's just boundaries. It's not easy, but it is just
No,
putting
but
boundaries. And if you go to the gym, don't bring your phone. If you go, there's certain ways that you can adapt to that, and it's like finding ways to make your full attention off something else that's not business.
Yeah.
And to wrap up from there, like I've been dealing with that recently. I want breaks for certain things, so I haven't watched TV shows in a long time, and I started watching a TV show that
I've been
helps my
more so on
brain.
watching podcasts lately. Like the one podcast I will definitely recommend to everyone is called The Diary of a CEO.
Yeah, I
That
watched that
podcast
too.
is phenomenal. And I was actually watching the specific episode in where the host is interviewing Scooter Braun, who used to be the manager of, Demi Lovato, used to be the manager of Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber. And he said, he's like, I didn't have balance and I lost my wife because of it. So
Yeah.
that part of his integrity was missing because he didn't have integrity for his marriage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the chart. At the end of the day, if you think you're doing excellent in one thing but is overtaking all your life, it's gonna be taking away from other aspects. So if
Yeah.
you balance every aspect and you say, I always tell myself, ever since I learned that analogy, it was one of my mentors that told me that she was my coach when I was a kid, and she's a principal now. And she told me like, this is being your time is being taken up way too much in this. You're not even focusing on the other stuff. Like you don't even go to the. This was at the time. She's like, you don't even go like to the gym as much as you used to. Like what are you doing with your time? Even if, and that's what I realized. And now I tell myself, how's my chart going? Like I have a visual representation of it. I'll be thinking like, how did my week go? I got to spend some time with family. I got to go to the gym. I got to go get a massage. I got to go see some friends. Okay, percentage check, 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 check. Balance. I got to play sports. I got to try to do different things. That's only gonna
Yeah.
help you keep building. And taking care of yourself and acknowledging the effort and each step will help you realize what makes sense and what doesn't, and the right way to do things.
Yeah.
So we just want to take our time on things and find strategies and best ways to fit it all into our busy lives.
Yeah. I think that's probably where the number one thing I struggle with is finding that balance. Is because I've always been that kind of person that just goes head first.
Yeah,
And
now you get to think about it, and that
yeah,
before
now
you jump
it's
in
like
at
I have
first,
to really sit down and think really hard. And I'm like, I've never had to do any of that. I was like, because now, like, I'm on my computer to a point where it's like 10 hours a day.
yeah.
And I'm like,
So now find
okay,
ways. You gotta find ways that you can still get the certain networking or what this that other. I mean, certain things that go into your business, you could get them done in different ways. You just have to find variations. There's variations for
yeah.
everything,
I think
and
that's why I think that if anybody's struggling with finding balance, like, uh, in finding the right person to talk to, like, please talk to somebody about finding balance because I think that talking to people and seeing how they do things, I think that's what one remains makes us remain humane, and then
uh,
two, it opens up conversations because I think this is a very difficult topic for people to understand because
it's not.
everybody feels at some point that they're lacking balance.
But you have to put in the work in order to have that
Yeah.
flexibility. You don't
You
have
can
that
talk about it all day
flexibility
long, but if you're not putting in effort, it doesn't matter.
when you don't put the effort in, you don't have the strength to have boundaries,
Well, that's true. That's a
because
thousand percent true.
boundaries are the word no
Yeah.
in a sense in different ways, but at the end of the day you're just saying whoa, step back. And it could be
Yeah.
whoa, step back to the schedule overwhelming. It could be no, step back to music playing in the car, like no, I don't want that. Those are boundaries, and
Yeah.
at the end they can be simplified or overseen as the wrong way. But we I think we had a good talk today on all of this, and I'm happy that we're able to speak on these topics, and I hope it helps whoever else in that sense, because communication is the biggest release, in my opinion, to building.
1,000%. If you're not talking, you're remaining complacent in my eyes. And the best type of people in the world, they share ideas and how they believe. And we're just making, it's not so much about controversy, it's more about explaining your point of view and then coming to middle ground.
Well, that's it for today. I like that. That was our mic drop moment at the end, and I'm excited to keep talking in the future about our next topics. But I hope everyone enjoyed, and it was a good talk today, Sarah.
I hope that everybody that's listening to this takes something from this that you find useful and you implement into your own belief system and or life. Hopefully that you can live this out, and I hope to be back on the podcast soon enough.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Today was
Thank you
fun.
guys.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.